Sebago to the sea is a cool hiking trail, I guess. We're here for the boats. We're here to take a boat all the way down from Sebago Lake all the way down to the ocean in Portland, 25 miles down. Learned a lot about the maps and the routes that you plan, but most importantly, I learned about how beautiful the Presumpscot River is on its 25-mile journey from Sebago Lake all the way down to the ocean in Portland. The story of the Presumpscot River is very much the story of America. It was home to Wabanaki people for thousands of years, and the name Presumpscot is said to mean river of many falls or river of many rough places. And when the first colonizers from Europe came to the area, they had never seen so many fish before in their lives. But from the 1660s on, industrial development occurred, and first there were sawmills, and then paper mills, and canals were built, and then dams. And so many dams were built that it completely stopped the fish from getting back upstream to the Wabanaki. This led to conflict and then battles and wars, and this drove the Wabanaki people completely out of the area. Now, in the 21st century, restoration programs are going on, and it's fish ladders and dam removal and river trails and river preserves, and the migratory fish are coming back, and people have been coming back too, swimming in the river and canoeing and paddle boarding and hiking along the trails and snowshoeing in the winter. So I made this video to show what I saw paddling down from Sebago Lake down to Casco Bay. So I'll be following the PRLT's water map all the way from the beginning of the river at the Eelweir Dam at Sebago Lake all the way down to Martin's Point in Casco Bay in Portland. The basic format for each section of the trip will be to follow the PRLT's water trail map with its put-ins, portages, etc. Next, a Google map with the put-ins, takeouts, and portages. Number 3, video scouting from the shore whenever I have it. And 4, actual footage from the trip when I have that. I have to spend a little extra moment here explaining the first segment because of confusing names and crossovers and canals and connections. As you can see here from the PRL map, it says, quote, Route 35 Eelweir. Note this paddle section is not recommended, end quote. More on that later, but you can see here there's the parking area marked with a heart, a very nice parking spot right after the Eelweir. But if you want to walk upstream, this might explain it a little better. Right across from the Eelweir Canal, you can follow a nice trail all the way up to the Eelweir Dam. A great Sebago historian helped me understand this confusing, twisting geography. As you can see, there's the Eelweir, but now you can see off to the right, that's the start of the Presumpscot River. So Sebago Lake comes into the basin, and it's dammed all the way across there to the origin of the Presumpscot, but it also is the start of the Eelweir project. The original Headgate Dam was built around 1830, and it was called the Basin Dam. In 1904, the canal was built, and the water was almost completely diverted away from the Presumpscot and to the canal. The dam was then renamed the Eelweir Dam, and this became the power canal, and the powerhouse for the hydroelectricity was built about 1.5 miles downstream at the terminus of what became called the Power Canal. And these parts are all now together called the Eelweir Hydroelectric Project. But you can see that this stops almost all the flow at the beginning of the Presumpscot. When the rains are pretty high and at the certain times of year, there's pretty much water, and you can even get some white water. This is about a week ago. And about a week ago, there was some Class 1 and maybe even a little bit almost Class 2 water at the start there after the Route 35 bridge. This is scouting from the shore. So you can see that sometimes there's a lot of flow at the very start of the Presumpscot. And to scout the rest of the trail, you can follow a beautiful snowmobile trail. You can follow the trail easily downstream along river left, and from there you can see plenty of easy routes. The smartest place is probably to go on the other side of the river there along river right, where there's no strainers and the flow looks a little deeper. And after just about 1 mile, The river does get deeper, but then you can start to hear the release from the Eelweir powerhouse, and that's your sign that it's time to take out and portage around Eelweir Falls. The flow is very easy, and the shore on river left is very flat and shallow and very easy to pull a canoe up. Eelweir Falls should not be paddled, although there is one little spot right along the left shore that might be tempting to some people to run if they have a lot of people and safety and throw bags and everything. But it's easy to portage through a beautiful little scenic falls observation area there, and to put back in right about there. Now there is another way to begin the trip, and that does not involve going down the Presumpscot River, but instead paddling down the Eelweir Canal. Several people have reported doing this and having success with it, although also some people have been reported to have drowned in the Eelweir Canal when they did not take out and were stuck in the machinery at the end at the strainer. The Eelweir seems to get, by my reckoning, the great majority of the water from the dam, and there are several places that you could drive into the side of the Eelweir and could portage your boat there. You don't want to go anywhere near the strainer there, and now you're looking right at the powerhouse release dam that we just saw from the other side. As you can see, some people do paddle down the Eelweir Canal and take out way before the end there, and then there's a portage right on the street. You can go back to the street and come down to a nice little parking lot here, and that parking lot is a place that some people actually begin their trip. They'll drive down to here. Instead of doing the beginning of the Presumpscot, they'll drive their boat or their kayaks right down to here, and the red on the left is bypassing the upper Presumpscot. But I decided to go along with the PRLT's map from start to finish. So you park at that parking spot, which is perfect across the street. Right across the street is a little trail through the woods, and that little trail through the woods brings you right over to the beginning of the Presumpscot River. And you can see right away I was loaded for whitewater and some rapids. I had flotation and throw bags and everything, but the water is much lower, and this is only 1 week later. There were rocks exposed everywhere. Some creatures were sticking rocks to the side of that boulder, and I got stuck to the boulders myself because it was so low I had to drag twice. And it just goes to show an important lesson. The river is going to be completely different depending on the flow, the rain, and the way it's controlled upstream. Seems like the most water goes over to the Eelweir Canal, but they control what the release is. And look here, even at the hydroelectric release, it's much lower than it was the day before. But it's an easy pull up into the observation area, drag the boat right up the shore. About 10 yards later, you go right back down into the river. And it's a beautiful little picnic spot at the observation river. But just remember, every segment here could be completely different from day to day depending on the wind and the rain and the releases. And do not try to run those falls. That's not a smart idea. And from there on down, this is actually called North Gorham Pond. It's the Presumpscot River, but you follow a beautiful route down very slow-moving water, and this is showing the portage around Eelweir Falls. Now here we are paddling up to dam number 2, North Gorham Dam. This is the general pattern for each place. It's very easy to see the dams as they're coming, and you can look around and find your takeout spot. Over on the right shore, there was a easy path to pull up, and of course, once again, I was using wheels because I had to pull that boat a long ways today. And once again, I should point out, so this was an 83-degree day, and I think it's very important to plan and choose the right boat, and also to prepare and have plenty of liquids. I brought a gallon of water and lots of soft drinks and boxes full of sandwiches as we arrived at North Gorham Dam, which was number 2 dam. And this is the beginning of segment 3, which is called Dundee Pond. So this segment of Presumpscot River is impounded. It's called Dundee Pond. The previous one is called North Gorham Pond. And both of these have lots of great swimming areas and beaches. And as you paddle down this one, it's also very slow-moving water. And you can see some of the beautiful scenery on the sides. At times when the wind's not blowing, it's like a mirror surface. And the water was quite low. In fact, the mud was exposed everywhere. And there you can see the next dam. And again, it's very easy to see the takeout over on the right. Now, I can easily say that this portage is the most fun portage I ever had today or in my whole life. I got a tow from some awesome Maine wardens who drove by and saw me there and said, "Why don't you just hop on the back of our truck and hang on to your canoe and we'll tow it down the road for you." Number 4, anyway, Dundee Dam. Woo! And I got a ride to this portage from some of the wardens. So this was my quickest and easiest portage. So from the trail on Cummings Preserve, it's very easy to drag the boat down some wooden stairs and put back in the water. I did not see any falls at Dundee Falls, just flat water. And again, it's beautiful paddle, and there's a really cool covered bridge right there called Bab's Covered Bridge. Bab's Covered Bridge. No kids jumping right now. Also, with this segment of the river, there are lots of places to swim and park your car and paddle. And as you continue down after Bab's Bridge, then there's the famous Wyndham train trestle. This is right by Shaw Park, and Shaw Park has plenty of places to walk and have a picnic. But I think the kids' favorite place, from what I can tell, is playing and swinging on the train trestle and jumping off either from that low height and sometimes from the top of the train trestle. People also hike across that train trestle. It's a beautiful hiking path. And there are lots of families on the beaches on either side. Railroad trestle. As with a lot of these dam portages, once you see the dam, it's an easy matter to look across the shore and find a nice hill with a gentle slope, with a clearing that you can get on. So many of these have nice, well-worn bike trail, hiking trails. Gambo Preserve is one of these, and it's very easy to hike to different places there, with sightseeing and little bridges, and even an interesting old gunpowder mill with some old mill ruins there. Oh, there's Gambo Dam. I just like saying Gambo Dam. There's another easy put in here after the Gambo Preserve. Just be a little careful where you step, because there's these little fellows that tried to come downriver with me. Now there is a significant problem with this next section to go from the Hawks Preserve all the way down to Malison Falls. The main problem is that the river between Little Falls and Malison Falls, there really is no good put in there. And the portage that PRLT recommends is a car portage, and that did not seem like the right spirit to me. I'm not interested in a car portage, and certainly dragging your canoe down Towpath Road, then busy Route 202, and then around a traffic circle, and then down to Canal Street. That would be dangerous for both the canoe and the traffic. In addition, there's serious one-lane traffic on Route 202 now, with big-time construction and heavy equipment everywhere, and cars backed up and not happy about being there. So instead, I decided to bend one little rule, to paddle a few feet under the bridge. Although it's marked takeout before the bridge, there is a city-maintained fishing area just after the bridge, and that leads to an easy slope up to the Depot Road, which leads to the Mountain Division Trail. The left side of the river before the bridge has no good portage. That's the Red City Ale House, and the parking lot is full, and Route 202 is terrible to tread across. The right side of the river after the bridge has no good portage access. But on the left side, even though it's marked "Do not proceed beyond this point," danger Little Falls Dam, it's easy to go under that float wire, and just beyond there's that fishing access just a few feet under the bridge, with an easy slope to come up and parking for fishermen. And even though I can't recommend this for anybody else, it seemed very safe to me to go over onto that very safe shoreline where the fishermen stand and fish in the water. That there's no real current at that spot, but it is relatively close to the dam. And as you can see downstream, there is no place to put in. So it's best to just pass up this entire segment of the river. So to portage around the river between Little Falls and Malison Falls, and then continue to portage past Malison Falls, one way is to just go down Canal Street. Be careful to avoid these dangerous but delicious looking wine cap mushrooms. Yummy. That's the fakest looking mushrooms I've ever seen in my life. I'm told they are a delicacy. And then about 0.3 miles down Canal Street, there's a very interesting hydroelectric project, and you can just take a little detour and look across what the power canals look like. They look deadly. I cannot imagine anything falling in there. But it's a very well marked river access here with a big parking lot. So sometimes you could just drive down to here and then just drift down the rest of the Presumpscot to Lincoln Street, etc. And this portage has a wooden canoe slide also, which under high water might be a fun, quick way to get down. And it's well marked under the Sebago to the Sea logo. And going downstream, there's just a few riffled skiffles with Malison Falls in the distance off to your left. But I decided to portage on the beautiful, smooth off-road trail all the way from Little Falls, past the Little Falls segment of the river, and past Malison Falls, and put in below Malison Falls. Once you're just a short while into the woods, then you just have to look for a trail down, and I'm again reminded that often looking for a trail through the woods to the water, you often get luck if you see a homeless camp and signs like that, which is the indication that humans have been walking through there. You do have to keep your eyes open, though, for where they empty the bucket out. And there you can see Malison Falls. Now you can see it from river left. Across the way is the Canal Street boat chute. And this is where I decided to put in. And then it's a straight shot down to Sakarapa Falls. There's river left. The house is along 302, and there's the Red City Ale House. And there you see the bridge with the big sign that says, "Do not go under it." But if you hug that shore, you can just slip right under that thing. and it's very easy to pull up on the shore there. Small falls or little falls. Now the back way to Malison Falls. Now it's pretty much all downhill. Back in the water after Malison Falls. That's Canal Street over there. Now as I got to the longest uninterrupted stretch, 4.5 miles from Malison Falls down to Mill Lane, unfortunately my phone started dying, and this is my favorite section because this is where I paddle a lot during the week, and it goes past pretty scenery. There's a few tiny little rapids about a mile down. Very shallow. There's some nice old infrastructure, and there's some wildlife all around, turtles and ducks. Now as we get down to Sacarapa Falls, I disagree with the PRLT's portage map the opposite way. They say to go right down to the rapids and take out on a place called Mill Lane. I don't think that's a good takeout. It's full of rocks and riprap, and it's really getting to be rapids there. I say take out right across from Lincoln Street boat ramp, and there's a very nice little grass trail, very easy to follow, and then you do have to do some city portaging here. Again, with my wheels on my canoe cart, it's pretty easy to just follow Mill Street down to Main Street and go to Main Street, cross the parking lot, and then go on the Westbrook River Trail. And look here, there's Lincoln Street boat ramp across the river. There's a very simple little flat, easy trail here that you follow. And there's the equipment for monitoring the tagged fish, how many swim by in the river. But you just follow this grass trail here, and then you don't have to go paddling down the rapids. It's a simple grass trail that goes right to Mill Lane. PRLT says you should take out right there, and I just actually don't think that's a very smart idea. It may be fun. The river quickly comes down here, and you can see the fish ladder facilities. But what you do here is just follow Mill Lane straight down to Main Street, and you turn left on Main Street, and strangely, despite all the cars and trucks and foot traffic, it was actually not that hard dragging my 100-pound canoe down the bike lane. There goes the new vertical growing hydroponic facility in downtown Westbrook. When you get to this point, you can take a look at where the old Sacarapa Dam used to be. They removed it, and now they put a fish ladder in right there, and it's beautiful Sacarapa Falls again after hundreds of years. Strangely, people are not surprised at all to see someone lugging a boat down the sidewalk here. I think it's a pretty common occurrence, and it's very easy to get across the streets. Nobody really bats an eye at you. The Westbrook River Walk is pretty cool. So just a little detour here to look at the water. You don't really cross that bridge to get to the portages. Again, these little rapids look like they'd be fun to paddle today. Sometimes they're a lot higher than that, but the portages another quarter-mile downstream. There are actually usually several boat launches here at this short downtown section of the Presumpscot River, Ash Street, which I decided to put in there because it's shallow, but the boat launches were not up yet. Also Foster Street, and also Riverside Park. And there's some on the other side of the river too, over at Brown Street. Plenty soon enough you get to this ominous site where the river splits under two bridges at the Cumberland Mills. There's giant bright orange buoys blocking your way. This is nature's way of saying, get the beep out of the river right now, or else you get sucked into the bowels of the mill. So right there, it's a relatively easy takeout at what's called Fraser Field, and then you go through the Fraser Field parking lot. This is another spot where the PRLT calls for a car portage, which I think is just not in the spirit of the thing. Their map says it's a 3-mile portage, it's difficult, all driving on roads, and they say to haul out and drive over to the Route 302 access. I think the dirty little secret here that PRLT and nobody else seems to say is that by law, SAPPI is supposed to provide, as the dam owner, a portage with ready access around the dam. Do they? No, the dirty little secret is they don't. And by the way, maybe I don't feel so bad about that, because right behind there is their wastewater treatment tanks, several giant tanks, and also that's where a giant landslide was a few years ago, completely blocking the Presumpscot. I think I'd be just as happy to walk a portage. And really, even with my 100-pound boat, it wasn't that bad. You just take out at Fraser Field, but instead of loading up onto a car, you just follow the road up to Cumberland Street. You make a right on Cumberland Street and cross over to Warren Avenue. So you make the left on Warren Avenue and stay in that giant bike lane, breakdown lane, brings you all the way down to 73 Warren Avenue, Tri-City Tank Welding, and then there's a very big, wide grass trail that leads right down to the river. This grass clearing is really not that far away from Portland Trails' Presumpscot River Trail, and I hope that sometime they'll join up. Let me just reinforce again how important it is to have a full battery on your phone. But I totally screwed up here. I was hoping to do the whole trail in one day, and blah, blah, blah. One thing led to the next, and I got hopelessly lost, dragging my boat around the streets of Westbrook. Don't ask. So I had to come back the next day after my wife rescued me. And then I found this trail with my new batteries. And once again, you know, if you see signs of homeless people living in the woods, it's an excellent sign that you're going to have a path down to the water. These were really super friendly guys, and they called themselves homeless. They helped me a lot. I brought them 2 gallons of water when I was done. They brought my boat down, showed me where to go, and told me where not to step, where they dumped the bucket. And there's probably an easier path down to the trail, maybe a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, but they have a beautiful beach right here. And so if I did it again, I would definitely do this portage down the street of Warren Avenue instead of trying to cut through the woods right behind SAPPI. I felt this was a pretty easy 1-mile portage, and now I got back in the water and started back on my way. Well, that's a pretty good strainer. Don't even ask. This strainer is made up of at least 10 trees, going from shore to shore, some of them stuck solidly still in the shore where the shore is deepest and fastest and steepest straight up and down. Don't even ask. Anyway, it took forever to push the boat through all those trees, and now finally actually on the way from just below the dam at SAPPI all the way down to the Route 302 bridge access on Forest Avenue. And there's no more blockages from there. And you just keep paddling for several miles under several bridges and overpasses until you get to the next Sebago to the Sea trailhead, which is at Blackstrap Road, and continues straight through there. So it's about a 7-mile paddle from the SAPPI wastewater facilities down to Casco Bay, and there are no more blockages. When you get past the Falmouth Spur, there are several little sets of rapids, which are fun and not too high. About 5 miles in from Falmouth Spur, you have to really look hard for the portage for Presumpscot Falls. You don't want to go over Presumpscot Falls. Really, the only way to get a good look at Presumpscot Falls is to go down the Presumpscot River Preserve. Sometimes part of this is called Oatnuts Trail. Really what you want to do is put 99 Overset Road in your GPS, and this is where you first see the warning to portage the falls when you walk down this beautiful, perfectly kept trail. But it's not clear where's the best place for you to take out. It's very steep, most of those places. By the time you get down here to the falls, that's a little too late to take out. So it seems like maybe you could pull your boat up over these rocks. And if it was dry today, if it was wet, this was probably be like lithium grease to try to crawl across. And that's one option. The other option is to take out a good bit before that orange sign, and if you have someone helping you, you could carry your boat down the trail. But the falls are truly beautiful, and I suppose kayakers could probably do these and probably have a pretty safe time of it. After the falls, there's still a few more rapids, and I think it looks pretty easy and looks like pretty much fun to pick a line and go down these rapids, because they end pretty quickly and there's a rescue pool right after them. These change depending on the tide and also depending on the water level. So from this to the week after, they were much, much lower, unfortunately, on the day that I paddled. But they were still fun. I think probably one of the best things about this trip is when you have to scout on the shores of all these different trails and hills and valleys. It's just so many beautiful things to see. And I'll miss that. I certainly can't wait to get back in the boat again in any of these places. In fact, some of the things that you see here are so amazing that you just have to stop what you're doing and just try to believe what you're seeing.
What? Dudes, no, dudes. That's not gonna work.
I don't think any of them are making it. They're all going, like, they're getting washed all the way back there.
Well, you know, yesterday, though, this was running. Buddies.
No way!
Oh, yeah, put them on the other side of the rock.
Just went back around there. I have to wait for them
There's no putting this off anymore. Sadly, we do have to finish. And once you paddle past Presumpscot Falls, you just go under one more overpass, and there you are in Casco Bay. You just stay aiming towards the right shore, and the first outcropping that you see there is Martin's Point, right under the next bridge. And it's very important to be aware of the tides now, because you don't want to get stuck in the mud there. There's no picnic battling a headwind or an incoming tide either. I was really struggling trying to drag my boat up the shore for that portage, and that awesome biker and his tiny little daughter helped me bring it down the trail and then lower it back down into the water after the falls. Nice little eddy pool where there was still some rapids and plenty of alewives swimming around, so I got to have some fun, but it was also an easy place to put in. It was great to see the sea and the bay, but nobody tells you this. Listen, those little waves, sometimes they get up to like 2 or 3 feet high, and they're often going to cross purposes. I got there at
The sea.
almost low tide, and I thought that was going to be plenty fine to get through, and it was a little bit tight. But this is Martin's Point, and once you get to the shore there, right to the left, there's a little path you can follow up to a parking area near an old greenhouse, and that's where your trip ends. Once again, that short run you do in Casco Bay, it's a little tricky. Even with lowish tide, with the wind blowing, and sometimes with some riptide currents, you may think you're going one way, the sea may have a different idea. The mud is like tar on the sides, and I thought I was paddling out with the tide, but that didn't help much. And the waves getting up to about 3 feet sometimes, it can make you a little unsteady with a strong headwind. All told, my portages added up to 3.61 miles. It felt like it was longer than that. I'm sure I could do the whole thing in one day if I wasn't lollygagging and taking tourist pictures quite so much. And I can't wait to get back out there and do it again.